Hello, everyone, and welcome to English with Sarah and James. I'm Sarah.
And I'm James. It's great to be back with you all. We're thrilled to have you tuning in today.
Absolutely. In today's episode, we're tackling a topic that many English learners find a bit, shall we say, daunting: handling phone calls without stress. We know making and receiving phone calls in a foreign language can be nerve-wracking.
That's right, Sarah. But don't worry, by the end of this episode, you'll have some practical strategies and useful phrases to help you feel much more confident. We're going to break down some common challenges and give you some actionable tips.
So grab a cup of tea, relax, and let's talk about how to make those phone conversations a breeze, or at least much less stressful. We'll start by discussing some common pitfalls and then move on to how to overcome them.
Exactly. We'll try to keep it light and practical. So let's dive right in.
James, I'm sure you've heard this from many students, the dreaded phone call. What do you think makes it so particularly challenging for learners?
Oh, definitely. I think one of the biggest hurdles is the lack of visual cues. You can't see the other person's facial expressions or body language, which can make understanding much harder, especially with different accents.
That's a great point. And then there's the pressure to respond quickly, isn't there? I've had students tell me they just freeze up, they get tongue-tied and can't think of the words.
Precisely. That feeling of being put on the spot can be overwhelming. So, what's the first piece of advice we can offer our listeners to combat this?
Well, preparation is key, I always say. If you're making the call, think about what you want to say beforehand. Maybe jot down a few key points or phrases. That can really help to keep you on track.
I couldn't agree more. And when you say jot down, you mean to write something down quickly, right? Like making some quick notes.
Exactly. Just short notes, nothing too detailed. And for receiving calls, especially unexpected ones, it's useful to have a few standard phrases ready. For example, if you need the caller to speak more slowly or repeat something.
That's a lifesaver. Phrases like, "Could you please speak a little slower?" or "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" are perfectly polite and very useful. Don't be afraid to use them. Native speakers use them too.
Absolutely. And it's also important to manage your own speaking. Sometimes when we're nervous, we tend to speak too quickly or too quietly. So take a deep breath and try to speak clearly and at a moderate pace. Enunciate your words.
Good advice. Speaking of clarity, that's something both the speaker and the listener need to work towards. What about when you're not sure you've understood something correctly?
That's where clarification questions come in handy. You can say something like, "So if I understand correctly, you're saying that," or "Could you clarify what you mean by..." It shows you're engaged and want to understand.
And it prevents misunderstandings, which can save a lot of trouble later on. Another thing I often tell my students is to not be afraid to ask the caller to bear with them for a moment if they need to find information or think.
Oh, bear with me. That's a brilliant one. It's a very polite way to ask for a little patience. For instance, "Please bear with me for a moment while I check that for you." It sounds very professional.
It does. And what about ending a call? Sometimes that can be awkward too.
True. A simple "Thank you for calling," or "It was nice talking to you," followed by "Goodbye," usually works well. And if you've agreed on any actions, briefly summarizing them before you hang up can be very helpful for clarity on both sides.
Great tips, Sarah. I think these strategies can really help our listeners feel more empowered when they next pick up the phone. It's all about practice and having the right tools.
Now that we've discussed some strategies, let's take a closer look at some of the vocabulary and phrases we used. We've picked out a few key ones that we think will be particularly useful for you. James, would you like to start us off with the first one?
Sure, Sarah. The first expression we want to highlight is to get tongue-tied. We mentioned this when talking about feeling nervous on the phone.
That's right. So, to get tongue-tied. What exactly do you mean by that, James?
Well, to get tongue-tied means you find it difficult to speak because you are nervous, embarrassed, or surprised. Your words just don't seem to come out right. For example, when he asked me to speak in front of everyone, I got completely tongue-tied.
That's a perfect example. And for pronunciation, tongue-tied has two words. Tongue is pronounced tongue, with a short U sound, and tied is tied, like the past tense of the verb tie, so tongue-tied. Notice the stress is pretty even on both words.
Exactly. And a synonym could be to be at a loss for words or to be speechless, though tongue-tied often implies a temporary inability to articulate due to nerves. It's a very common and descriptive idiom.
It is indeed. Okay, next up we have the phrasal verb to jot down. I use this when I suggested making notes before a call. James, could you explain this one a bit more?
Of course, to jot down means to write something quickly and briefly. It's like making a quick note of something so you don't forget it. For instance, I always jot down new vocabulary in my notebook.
That's a great habit for language learners. For pronunciation, jot is J-O-T with a short O sound, similar to hot or pot, and down is D-O-W-N with that ow sound you find in now or cow. So jot down. The main stress is on jot.
Good breakdown, Sarah. And related expressions could be to note down, to write down quickly, or to scribble down. Jot down implies speed and informality.
Precisely. Now let's move on to our third expression, to bear with someone. James, you mentioned this as a polite way to ask for patience.
Yes, to bear with someone means to be patient with someone, especially when they are taking a long time to do or say something. It's a very useful phrase for customer service or any situation where you need a moment. For example, please bear with me while I find your file.
That's a classic example. And for pronunciation, bear is B-E-A-R, pronounced like the animal, B-E-A-R. Air, it has that air sound. With is W-I-T-H with the voiced th sound, where your tongue is between your teeth and you make a vibrating sound. So bear with.
That voiced th can be tricky, so practice that. And synonyms, you could say to be patient with someone or to wait for someone, but bear with me is a very common and polite fixed expression.
It is very professional, too. Okay, our final vocabulary item for today is the noun clarity. We talked about the importance of clarity in phone conversations.
Yes, clarity. This word refers to the quality of being clear, easy to understand, or transparent. For example, the speaker's clarity made the complex topic easy to grasp. Or in our context, speaking slowly and clearly improves clarity on the phone.
Absolutely. For pronunciation, clarity is cla-ri-ti. The stress is on the first syllable, cla. Notice the A sound is like in cat, the I in re is a short I sound, and the T at the end is like T. So clarity.
Good explanation. And some related words or synonyms could be clearness, lucidity, or precision. Having clarity in communication is essential, especially on the phone.
Definitely. So those were our 4 key vocabulary items for today: to get tongue-tied, to jot down, to bear with someone, and clarity. We really hope these explanations and examples help you to use them confidently.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of English with Sarah and James. We've covered quite a bit today on handling phone calls without stress.
We have indeed. Remember, the key takeaways are to prepare beforehand, use useful phrases for clarification and managing the conversation, and to speak clearly and at a moderate pace. Don't be afraid to ask for help or repetition.
And most importantly, practice. The more you use English on the phone, the more comfortable you'll become. Try some of the phrases we discussed today in your next phone call.
That's the spirit. We hope you found today's discussion helpful and feel a little more confident about tackling those phone calls. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for listening. Keep practicing, keep learning, and we'll be back soon with another episode to help you on your English learning journey. Bye for now.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep up the fantastic work.